Alright, I picked up this Hercules Plunge router kit from Harbor Freight not too long ago, and I didn't know any information about it and tried to find it somewhere on the internet. So once I bought it blind, I just figured I would put a review online. So let me tell you about it. Alright, first thing is the stuff that it comes with. You get this decent little wrench, not great, not terrible. Extra base, I'm guessing for bigger bits. You get this dust collection thingy-majig to hook up to the plunge base, and I have already hooked up the dust collection thing on the back of here. And then there are, let's see, we've got a guide, some rails that you can hook onto your guide, pretty nice and beefy, and some little lock washers there. Sorry, that's not in focus. So got those. There's this little chip guard thing that looks pretty much useless. And yeah, and then that's about it. Let me tell you about the plunge base. Alright, let's take a look at the plunge base here. So first thing is, well, I guess you can see the cord comes with a nice Velcro thingy-majig. That's kind of nice. You've got this unlock here. I smashed my finger in here. First time, that wasn't very fun, but it just snaps unlocked, and the motor pulls right up out of there. It's a nice tight fit. You've got this little guide arrow here. You line that up with the guide arrow here when you want to put her back in, and this slides right down. Lock it back down, nice and secure. When you want to lock the depth, then push this thing down, and it's nice and secure there. Otherwise, you flip that back up, and it shoots back up, nice and good. Springs seem to be pretty strong. There is a light up here for when you have it plugged in, just to indicate that it is powered. So that's kind of good. Otherwise, the switch is on the motor here, so you know, you've got to flip that on. You've got your variable speed control up here. I bought this to route some letters in a sign for my neighbors, so I will take this 1/2-inch round nose bit, and I'll show you how to put that in this router. It's pretty much no different from any other router. The back side of the plunge base has this flat edge, and a lot of routers, you can just lay them down on their back like that, and that's all well and good, but this doesn't sit real flat because this cord coming out back here prevents it from sitting perfectly flat, but that's a pretty small deal anyway. You can set it, go upside down like this, and the top of the router is flat, so it will sit like that just nice and fine. But what I'll do is just set this down and try to get in here. Let's see, let's get a good shot. Alright, now that I stuck the bit in at a nice depth, I can push down this this spin lock. I'm not sure if that's the right word for it. And then turn this till she's nice and tight, and it's pretty good and tight right there. Nice. Okay, now because I know a lot of people don't like dust, and I sure don't, that's why I bought this. I'm going to put this dust protector thing in. I took this wing nut out for the guide rails just so you could see a little bit better. There is a little finger screw here and another one here. I just leave them inside the router plunge base because then I don't lose them. Otherwise, I am sure to lose them. And then, even with the bit installed, putting this in isn't that tough. It's not as quick and snappy as I know some certain expensive brands can be, but not too bad. And I guess saving money costs, or saving time costs money. Otherwise, now that's in nice and secure. I was a little worried when I first got this that this area back here was going to be a problem because there's a gap here where this rail goes in, and I was afraid dust was going to escape there down underneath this, and it sure has not. When I routed, I don't know, 20 some letters, I did not have a single bit of dust escape through there that I could tell. There's only a small little gap right here down inside here that where the dust can escape, but it sure does catch I would say 99% of it. I didn't see hardly any dust, and I can show you how I hooked that up. Alright, it is awfully cold in my garage today, so I'm not sure how much my caliper screen is going to cooperate, but you can see right now I have it zeroed out. And just to show you for any dust collection fanatics how big this is, it is 1.43 inches there going side to side. And you would think it'd be the same going this way, but let's just check. It's going to be close enough. 1.40 there. On the inside of here, the inside diameter, looks like it is 1.25 inches, 1.25 before I pulled that out there. And just to be sure, 1.22 going vertically on the inside diameter. So not a perfect circle, but not really a huge deal either. It's got a little bit of give because it's plastic. Speaking of give, a little bit of give right back here. If I put pressure on this, I can lift up on that a little bit. I was a little worried about that, but I didn't find it to be a problem. Most people are going to have a vacuum hose pulling down on theirs anyway because it's going to come down like that. But I'll show you my setup, and I'm sure yours is going to be different, but I'll show you what I have just so you can see how much pressure it put on this. Alright, my dust setup is just an old vacuum hose that I got off of a broken vacuum, and then it came with one of these adapters. I sawed the end off. It was some sort of crevice tool or something. But anyway, I took a piece of PVC and just heated it up with a heat gun, and then I wrote on here yellow adapter on that side. So I stick that on like that, and then I heated up this end just a little bit so that it'd fit on here, and wrote router on that end, and it just fits snug right on there. And I don't even have to push it on that far, and now everything works okay. So since I have a really flexible tube, I don't have to worry too much about this pulling on there too much. But anyway, something to consider, that this isn't super strong plastic, but you know, you also aren't paying a whole lot either. You're getting a pretty good deal. Alright, depth stop. There is a little bit of play in the depth stop here, so that's something to consider. But if you push this down to zero it out, I've got it zeroed out on my table. I drop this depth guide, and then if I just push down and then lock that in place, now I've got that zeroed out where this depth guide is pushed down all the way. Otherwise there is some play in there. It does turn and then lock into place pretty well, or snap into place with some little détentes, or however you pronounce that. There's a little guide right here that's awfully tricky to see. There's a little red line there, so if you want to try to adjust any sort of height adjustment, you certainly can. And it fits nice and tight on there, slides up and down. There's a micro adjust right there, and that makes a little pin come out of that shaft right there. So as you micro adjust, then that goes up and down, and that is metal. Most of the things on here are metal, actually. This is plastic up here, but otherwise a lot of these other parts are all metal, so that's nice. One thing, of course, that you're not getting is a brushless motor, but you're getting a brushed motor, and yeah, that's what the Hercules comes with. Regarding this little adjustment depth knob, whatever you call this thing, this little castle deal, I did try using a right angle screwdriver deal and loosening that Phillips screw that's in there and then tightening it up, and I have it as tight as she'll go, and there's still a little bit of wobble. So I guess it's just something that you live with. While we're looking at it from this angle, here's this little chip guard thing, and it just slides over top of this little screw right there, snaps into place, and then it's held nice and tight. But I don't see this little guy doing a ton of good, but I suppose it's probably there for a reason, and can't hurt to protect your eyes a little bit from flying things. Okay, I've got a test piece of wood here, a piece of pine set up, that I'll just route a little bit in and use my dust collection. I've got my little remote here to turn that on, and we'll see how it goes. As you can see, that green light, well, maybe you can see, that little green light's on, showing that it's plugged in. I've got my extension cord hooked up with my little sky hook here, and my my shop vac, which is just a regular old 12-gallon shop vac, nothing super fancy. But we'll just see how it does picking up dust. That took a couple tries to turn that off. But as you can see, I guess there was a little bit of dust left behind. Alright, here we go. Let's do a test cut. Turning the air. Groove. A little bit of burning, that must have went slow. Here's the groove. A little bit of burning because I went kind of slow. I did have to go back over it with the router to catch a little bit of that dust that was back here at the beginning of that channel. But that doesn't take very long, just quick suck up, and there is no dust left over on anything, nothing shooting out of the back. Real easy. The depth control here, if I take my calipers, set it up there, looks like each drop is 1/4 of an inch, so that's something to know. Another thing that I thought maybe people might be concerned about is how much wiggle you get, or I don't know if you call that run out. So there's a little bit of wiggle, or just slop, maybe you might call it, and this, but once you get it locked down, so let's say that I locked it right there, I don't know that there's a whole lot of wiggle. I can flex it just the slightest amount if I really push, and you're going to be pushing as you're digging through wood, so if you're trying to get super accuracy, you might get a little bit of run out from this plunge base. Alright, let's talk about the fixed base. So zeroed out my calipers here, and if I open them up, set them on the outside diameter, that's 1.43 on that. On this side, 1.43 again. Inside diameter should be about the same as the other, 1.20, so not quite 1 1/4. And I might be off by a little bit, trying to get on the center there, but that's about the same as the other. The front guard here, just do a pinch on these tabs and a little wiggle. There we go. That comes right out. Seems like it's got a pretty good seal around there too. It does look like this adjustment rod that you can, there's a hole here and looks like a hex key, I'm not sure, or an Allen hole. I'm not sure how big that is, but if you wanted to hook this up underneath of a table, looks like you would be able to run a depth adjustment rod down through there and connect to that. I'm going to go ahead and unmount the motor, slide that up out of there, line the arrow up with the arrow here, and slide it down in there, maybe not. Put it in there a little bit ago. Oh, whoops, got to push this button. There we go. This button here will let you lock into a guide there or down lower. I've got my bit in there right now, so I have to use this one, and then I can use my adjustment here to do a micro adjust if I need to do that. I do find that there is a decent amount of slop with this metal guide thing, whatever you would call that, and these little slots there. This part is plastic, but everything else is metal, so it's got a real solid connection. And again, if you want to pinch your fingers good and tight, you can snap your finger back in there. Otherwise, this holds it nice and tight, and I think that wouldn't be too bad. there's these holes for the guide rails there, and this part just rotates and cinches down on it tight, but otherwise they kind of flop around. I'm probably not going to use my fixed base a whole lot right now, at least I don't plan on it. I bought it for the Plunge router, so we shall see. Another thing with the fixed base dust collection here, to take this off, you just do a quarter or a little turn to the side. It's got these little nubs on there that help it slide into some spots. There are some little bars there that you could probably cut out if you wanted to. To take this out, if you wanted to remove this for some reason, you'd have to take your base off, and then there is a Phillips screw right there that looks like it removes this. So, well, there you have it. That's my personal review, I guess, on the Hercules 12 amp plunge base router with the fixed base. I would say, was it worth the $130 that I paid for it? I would say so. I've never owned a plunge router before, so this is my first one. I can't really compare it off of much, but just from what I see online, I thought it worked good for what I needed, so I would probably buy it again if I were in the market for something of the same price range. So hope that helps you, and hope that